Hi there, I'm Ian Hancock, Director of Products at Erwin, and welcome to another webcast on API development with Erwin EA Agile. In this session, I'm going to show you how EA Agile can integrate into the world of Zapier. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Zapier, I'm going to talk a little bit about what Zapier is and what benefits it brings to the table. Then I'm going to walk through a demonstration of how you connect Zapier and EA Agile together so that you can update a Kanban board in EA Agile from the same board in Trello. Anyone not familiar with Trello, I'll do a quick walkthrough of that too. So let's get started. Let's take a look at Zapier first. As you can see the URL at the top, zapier.com. When you go there, you'll need to create yourself a free account to get started. So what does Zapier actually do? Well, as you can see here, there's a whole load of workflow ideas. Comes up on your default page. So if I just select one of these, it'll come up with popular Zaps. So here we've got convert a new Gmail message to a Zendesk ticket. Zendesk is a ticketing system. It's actually the one that we use at Erwin for handling defects and other support queries. So this would mean that if somebody sent an email in to a Gmail account, Zapier would be able to pick up that email, pull out details like the email address, the subject, and the body of the email, and create a Zendesk ticket with that information already in there. This could then be alerted to the support team, and they would be able to follow up directly through Zendesk. As you can see, there's many more endpoints you can connect to. If I scroll through this list, practically anything that you use online that is popular is listed in here. Basically anything with a web API can hook into Zapier. Obviously it depends on how powerful the API is of what you're connecting to as to what you're able to do, but certainly companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they all have links in here to be able to integrate workflows between the different tools. So hopefully that's given you a flavor of what Zapier is. Moving very quickly on to what Trello is. Trello.com is where you go to get access to Trello boards. Again, you'll create yourself an account and you get some free usage. If you create yourself a board in Trello, what you essentially get is the ability to add multiple lists. So for instance, in here we could have a to-do column, in progress column, and a completed. Very simple. And what happens in here, you add items to the list. What you can do is drag these items around, very much like a Kanban in Erwin. Some people like to use Trello, some people like to use Kanbans in Erwin. Why not let people be able to use them both and use the product that they're most comfortable with? So if you're familiar with Kanbans in Erwin, Trello is the same kind of thing. Okay, so that's enough of the introductions. Now what we want to do is show how we can keep a Kanban board in EA Agile up to date with changes that have been made in Trello. So the scenario is you have some users that want to use a Trello board. They're moving cards around on the Trello board. Each time a card moves on the Trello board, what we'd like to happen is the card to move on the Kanban board in EA Agile. So let's go into Zapier and make a Zap. Now we need to pick Trello as the trigger application because that's where the thing is going to be happening. This is what we want to be monitoring. We need to look at the less common options, and here we can see a card has been moved to a list. So we're going to assume the cards are already on the list. Now we've selected that, let's choose Save and Continue. What's going to happen is it's going to ask us to connect a Trello account. So this is where you'll need to go through the process to attach your Trello account. I've already done this, but essentially it's little more than a username, password, and providing the necessary permissions to Zapier to be able to access that account. You can hit a test and it'll do a quick test to make sure the connection's good. So let's save and continue. So let's drop down the first list, which is the board. This is the board that's going to be monitored for cards that are moving. Drop down the second list. This is the list that you're looking at to be monitored. So in this case, we're going to look at the approved list. So anytime a card is moved to the approved list, we want something to happen. And we want it to happen for any card that gets moved there. So we choose any card. Now let's press continue. Zapier is now going to try and read from the Trello board to see whether the information it's got so far is accurate. So we're going to choose fetch and continue. One thing to make sure of is that you do have a card in the approved list. That all worked, so let's press continue again. Now you'll see a new action step has appeared on the left hand side in Zapier. So we need to set this step up. This one is going to be the action step that makes the changes to EA Agile. So we want to pay close attention to this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to the built-in apps. And we're going to choose Zapier's webhooks action. We want a post action because that's what the API is expecting. We now need to set up the URL. This is the URL to your workspace in my Erwin. Pay close attention to the URL content. You'll see it says /API/object import and the workspace ID. That's because we're going to be making an import into that workspace when we do an update. We want the payload type to be of type form, which is the default. We don't have any data to put in there. We put no down for wrap request in array. We don't need an array. Now the file is where the action happens. So the first thing that we're going to write are the property names of the properties that we're going to be changing. So if you imagine in your CSV file will have the titles on the first row. This is the first row of your CSV file. So you're going to need name and object type at a minimum. But we're going to add description and status. We're now on the second line of the CSV file, so now we're into the data section. Hit the plus button on the right. It's going to have a look into Trello's list of available properties of a card. Now for the name, we want the card name, so we click that and you'll see it's added it in there. And we're going to put a comma, and then we're going to go back to the field and choose the card description. Again, we'll put another comma. So these two fields are the first two fields, the name and description fields for the first record in your CSV file. We're going to put comma, and then we're going to write the word feature, and then another comma and approved. That's because the object type that we're writing to is a feature object type, and the status we want it to be is approved. We know it's approved because the card has just been moved into the approved list. The next thing we'll change is unflatten. We need that at no. And then we'll be entering the basic auth. So here we have username and password. So I put my username in, and then a pipe character, and then I type my password. And then we're pretty much done. So let's press continue. Once that's configured, Zapier will do a quick test, taking the card that it found in the trigger part of the Zap and passing it on to EA Agile. So you can have a little look and view the post. This will let you know whether it was successful or not. As you can see, it created an object and was successful. So let's move on. So you can name your Zap now. So we'll call this Zap approved card and switch the Zap on. We can now see it on our dashboard. Here you'll see approved card is running. What we can do now is go to Trello, and here we have our various tasks. So if we just put that there, and now we're just going to move a couple of tasks into approved. So we'll move that one and that one into approved. Flip across to our page in my Erwin, where we've already pre-configured a Kanban board. As you'll see, there's nothing on there at the moment. Now, it's perfectly to be expected because we haven't actually run the Zap yet. So let's go back to the Zap dashboard and say that we want to run it now. It's found 2 Trello cards. The webhook post was successful, all's good. Let's go back to EA Agile, hit the refresh button, back to our Kanban, and there you see an approved task 1 and task 2. If you wanted to configure the entire Kanban board, naturally you're going to have to create yourself a Zap for each card move and make sure that that is passed on to EA Agile. Hopefully that's given you a taste of what can be done with Zapier combined with EA Agile. Naturally, you can connect all sorts of other events up. You could have emails going in, you could have things from Salesforce, all sorts of feeds could put information into EA Agile. Really, you're only limited by the number of APIs that there are out there. Thanks for listening to this webcast, and look forward to seeing you again in the next one.